can tell you what I kind of rule out. I'm ruling out exposure. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, it's a pretty temperate park. Even at night, it gets, in December and January, it's, only down into the 40s. Yeah. And during the day, it's 60s, 70s. It's a pretty great place to hike.
Yeah, if you're in shorts and a t-shirt in 40s, it can be an issue, but it
doesn't even rain there a lot. I didn't mention it back in the climate, but the most rain it gets is January and December when they're getting 9 inches a month. So we're not talking monsoon rains. So I'm going to rule out exposure. I think that's fair. And another thing I may rule out is any obstacles from hiking in Olympic National Park. It's a beautiful place to hike, but you're not in a mountainous alpine terrain. So you're thinking like injury due to just trekking? Yeah, I just can't imagine minor falls, but twist an ankle. Yeah, anything's possible. I he could have, you can climb up on the stuff and fall. Sure. But I'm not imagining that he fell off a cliff somewhere or. Well, and you think about this too, because they talk about how dense it is and how it's hard. Anytime you have that, going off the trail is a pain. Mm-hmm. So let's say he twists his ankle. Yeah. He's going to be on the trail. Yeah. In his tent, just chilling out. And the only thing you can really do then is try to keep moving on your twisted ankle, which would stink. It would slow you down. But 20 miles over the course of a week, you could hobble your way out and probably make your date if your new goal is not to do side trekking anymore. But even if you couldn't move, you've all the supplies in the world. Mm-hmm. You don't need food for a week. No. You can go 2 weeks without food. He's got water. Yeah. He could survive 4 or 5 days in a tent waiting for someone to come by. And that's assuming nobody walks by him until search and rescue begins. Yeah. And, I'm going to... you can't... So I say I'm ruling this out, but I'm ruling it out with, in my head, a 95% certainty. Okay. Because, we're experts in... 95.8243%. But, I'm kind of ruling out an animal incident as well. If there were grizzlies in the park, I would say... Maybe. Someone hiking by themselves is always a target for grizzlies. Sure. Not necessarily a target, but if a grizzly's with its cubs, or if a grizzly's had human food before, you're going to be a target. Or with the dense stuff, you can turn a corner and there's a bear. Yeah. If you scare a grizzly, it's going to attack you. But I can't imagine a mountain lion or... He's too big. A wild boar attacking a 6'3" guy who's 200 pounds. A boar might try to. Yeah. And he could get gored a little bit, but he's 6'3", 200 pounds. Now, he's not a small guy at all. So the trail he was on, was that heading towards the coast? Yeah, it was not directly towards, it's adjacent. So if you're thinking of if you're looking at a map, the left side is the coast. It goes from a more easternly position in the south to a more westernly position in the north. Okay. That kind of goes in parallel with the coast. So, one possibility, I'm just, thinking out loud, because this is the first I've really heard the case. You researched the timeline, so I didn't research this ahead of time. So I could see maybe a scenario where he decided he wanted to go hike to the coast. Looking at the pictures from the park, obviously there's a lot of tall, sheer cliff walls where you're falling right into jagged surf. If you go to the cliff, you want to get a really good picture or something, and you fell over, you're falling hundreds of feet into jagged surf. Dead. You're not going to survive the fall, and there's a good chance maybe your remains would, wash out to sea. One possibility maybe is he went to the coast to get a picture or to, hike near the shoreline. He definitely was a smell the roses type of guy. Yeah. He took a week doing a hike that you could do in one day. Yep. That I'd probably be all right, 2 or 3 days, because I don't want to spend an entire week doing 20 miles. So, I could clearly see that being a possibility maybe. I don't know. As far as the park is concerned, it does look like there's numerous rivers running through the park. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I know in places I've hiked before, especially Hawaii, depending on the weather conditions, some of the rivers become impassable if it had rained recently. Oh, okay. I know in Hawaii, when we were hiking the Kalao Trail, there had been a lady that passed away just a month before us because she tried to cross the river after a big rainstorm, and it just flushed her out into the ocean. I know from a fact that you got to be careful when you're crossing
any body of water.
Any body of water.
Especially when you have a backpack on. Like that's like the big key is because...
And if you're by yourself.
Well, if you're by yourself, but it's different when you have a hiking backpack. And I'm assuming most people that listen to this show hike.
Yeah.
But when you have a hiking backpack, it's connected to you.
Yeah, it's like a big anchor.
It's a big anchor and a big like paddle.
Yeah.
So if you're going through a stream, like you might be fine with nothing on. You might be able to swim across, no big deal. But as soon as you strap that on, it starts getting waterlogged. You're attached to it. If you're panicking, you could easily get caught up, brought to a strainer point, and then drown before you could even get out of the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why anytime we do, if I have climbing rope, one person will go across without a bag on, connected to the rope, and then we go across holding on. Something like that is, and even in small streams that just are moving fast.
Well, even in Hawaii, we actually had rope with us because we knew we'd had to cross these streams, and we had rope with us in case something happened where you can try and maybe toss a rope to somebody to hold on to if something happens. But so I don't know, that could be a possibility. Like I said, I'm ruling out animal attack or exposure just because of the nice climate of the park. And another thing, I based on the comments of Keely, it doesn't sound like Arvin was a guy who was having troubles in his social life.
No,
or
no,
he didn't seem like a troubled guy. He, everyone in town liked him. He seemed like a really nice guy, willing to help everyone out. Kind of guy that you'd love to just go have a beer with and watch football.
Yeah.
So I
want to be good friends with him.
Yeah, right. And even the stories leading up to his disappearance, he met these people in the cabin, and then you said they went hiking together.
Yeah, he randomly meets somebody and proceeds to spend the next 2 days with them.
He's not the kind of guy who strikes me as someone going out in the woods to, commit suicide.
No.
He seems like he's just out there to have fun, enjoy nature, take everything in.
If anything, it's surprising he went alone. Like, you think he'd have a bunch of buddies that want to do it too.
That shocks me a little. Not shocks me, but I mean, that's a little bit of puzzling. But
unless he's so social with everybody, it's like a nice time for him to like just be to himself.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess if we lived somewhere with a really beautiful national park, I would probably go on day hikes by myself all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're in Wisconsin. We got the Ice Age Trail sections, and it's the same for the entire state.
We don't have a lot of great hiking around here, but
you can hike, but it's nothing like that.
If you want to see cornfields and just oak forests.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's kettle moraines.
Yeah.
Which is just a nice way of saying rolling hills that are covered in the same trees for hundreds of miles.
That's not to say Wisconsin is a terrible place. There's a lot of beautiful lakes, but
once you do it a couple times, it's you're craving for something special. So yeah, I'm ruling out suicide, animal attack, exposure. Now this is gonna sound crazy. I like crazy. Do it.
How much do we know about Jack English and his son?
Well, Jack's like 95 years old.
Okay, what do we know about his son?
I don't know much. I looked a little bit into just how he had a cabin in the middle of a state park.
Yeah. I'm only bringing this up, and I'm not trying to slander anybody's name.
Yeah.
Or I have no evidence to prove what I'm saying. And I'm only saying this because I've ruled out a lot of the more logical explanations. Is there a possibility, any shred in the back of your head, do you think that Jack or his son had anything to do with this guy's disappearance?
I want to say no immediately, and here's why. I'm going to assume that, they were investigated. So let's assume that they even do a bad job. They were picked up by a helicopter, and he saw them off.
Yeah.
So now you have a third-party helicopter pilot.
So the helicopter picked up Arvin. Or no, picked up Jack and his son.
Picked up Jack and his son, and Arvin saw them off. So you have a third party that showed up that would have been there.
Do we have the third party from the helicopter confirm that?
I don't know who that is. I don't have it. So that's what I'm saying is if that happened and their official story to police is, oh yeah, we saw him last, which you wouldn't tell if you did something.
Yep.
It would be, oh, we never seen him. So if they had something to do with it, I would just be like, no. But there are stupid criminals.
I don't know.
Most criminals are stupid. That's why they're criminals.
I guess I'm just saying that I do not know these two people. I don't know anything about them. But I'm just saying that, father and son living way off in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a state park. This guy runs into them and then just vanishes. To me, that does seem a little strange when you factor in that he was an experienced hiker, The climate's very temperate. There's really no way you're going to succumb to exposure. The terrain is pretty easy, and there's not a lot of wildlife that could kill you there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like all of the other possibilities, you can't factor them in here. So I'm just throwing that out there. It would be nice to get a corroborating story from the helicopter pilots. Like, yeah, I saw Arvin when I picked up Jack and his son, but I'm assuming we haven't found anything like that.
Monterey County Weekly is what really we found the most information on because that's the local paper.
Yeah.
They had a separate story entirely about Jack English and how, like, him living in the wild, because he, like, makes violin bows and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and he seems like kind of another, and it's a small community, so he's like another prominent figure. It's like the guy that lives out there. I want to assume that modern time police departments, even understaffed or bad ones, you have main suspect initially is the last people that saw him. The last people saw him alive, so you think they brought him in. I want to assume they did a good job. And if they were picked up by a helicopter, I think they'd question the pilot as well.
My theory, I mean, my whole theory on, him
I don't want to shoot you down.
Would be, my whole theory would be shot in the foot if we were able to find statement by the helicopter pilot.
Yeah, who saw him waving as they flew away.
But I'm just trying to list out any possibility.
So that leads into something else, because it sounded like he was going to hang out there. Yeah. Which, to me, that statement made it sound like he's going to stay at that cabin for a couple more days before he leaves.
So maybe... Did
someone come across the cabin?
Someone come up and...
Yeah, it's a heavily traveled area. Did someone try and burgle the cabin?
Burgle.
I think that's a word. It's a funny word.
Burgle.
But they're a burglar.
Yeah.
And they're going to hit the cabin because... Maybe they knew he was leaving.
The father and son
and they ran into...
They didn't realize Arvin was at the campsite.
But then he's a 200-pound, 6'3" dude. Granted, he's in his 50s, but...
I mean, what is going to be out in that cabin that's worth hiking days into the woods to steal?
Well, okay. Hold on. He makes these violin bows, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at this right now because I read this and didn't think it was relevant until now. So... he's saying his son and him are interested in violins. Yeah. They can't play it, but they like it. So they started making these inlays and things.
That's interesting.
So, hold on. But in the article, they're asking how much they cost. He said, "I'm afraid to tell you I've sold them mostly for $2,000 a piece."
Wow.
So if he's making these in this cabin, it's okay. We're onto something here.
Okay.
If he's making these... And there's a freaking article in the local paper that says, "Hey, I make these. I live in this remote cabin."
Yeah.
And if people know the goings abouts of people in the area, and they know he's going to be gone, are they going to go out there and try and steal these things? Because if he's got 10 of them, that's 20 grand.
We never heard any news, follow-up articles that said he was robbed. Maybe it was like an attempted robbing.
Attempted robbery, ran into him. I mean, if you're going to go rob someplace, you end up killing a guy.
Yeah.
Are you going to rob it too, or are you going to try and dispose of the body? Maybe not draw attention to the fact that
if you're already that into it. I mean,
but okay, so I'm thinking from the I'm someone who'd never do
maybe
that.
Maybe it was an accidental, like they were just going to tie him up and rob the place, and they accidentally killed him, and they freaked out and then left.
I'm gonna try and go into that guy's shoes.
Yeah.
But I almost have to dumb myself down. But I'm thinking in my head, if I'm gonna go rob this place, it's remote. It's gonna be real quick and easy. Break a window, steal 10 of these things. That's 20 grand.
Yeah.
You run into this guy. There's a fight. You end up. Now I'm getting Hollywood. You hit him over the head with something just to debilitate him, but it ends up killing him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rob the house anymore.
It's true.
Especially if I didn't get in there yet.
You're going to try to
I'm going to get rid of the body and not make it look like anything happened there.
Yeah.
Because they're going to go back to their cabin, and if the window's busted and they're robbed, they're going to call the police.
Arvin's missing now. That could maybe the FBI gets involved then, because now you're talking about potential murder case.
Yeah, exactly. So or they think Arvin did it, so now it's not a missing persons, it's a burglary and a missing persons.
One other thing I was thinking of too is we've covered a couple cases in national parks where they have more resources, I think, for search and rescue. Mm-hmm. It sounded like when you were describing the search and rescue timeline, and this is not to say the people involved did anything wrong in any way, shape, or form, but it sounded like the amount of people involved was smaller than we're used to hearing in other cases. I think you said there were like 30 people on the
30
ground.
30 people a day.
30 people a day.
But if you think about the response for that area,
Yeah.
for the size of that trail and how densely packed it is within the... Because it's like going... It's a state park. It's not a national park, so it's kind of in the city at some points.
I mean, in the episode we did on episode 2, I believe, on Miller, they had 400 people combing through Joshua Tree for days looking for him.
I wonder if it's the availability of volunteers.
That's what I'm thinking.
A lot of it is, since it's so volunteer, it's a smaller community.
My line of thought with this was going towards maybe... You said it's 1,000 acres?
Yeah, they call it Little Yosemite.
So it's still a pretty big park.
Pretty big park, but if it's that densely packed, I can't imagine anyone injured wandering off the trail. You'd have to be injured off trail.
Yeah.
But to go off trail is not fun in dense pack.
No, why would you do that?
Exactly. Like,
unless you're looking at something on a map, then you're trying to cut corners and maybe...
And so he did everything right prior to his trip. He had his itinerary. He said, here are the days and times I'm expected to be at these places.
Yep.
You don't do that unless you're going to stick to it. Like, unlike the last episode where we said this guy's kind of more of the hippie, like, wasn't prepared, kind of like shoot from the hip type. This guy's overly prepared. Yeah. Gave himself ample time. That's not somebody who's going to deviate from the plan.
And anyone who's an experienced hiker, I know if you and I were hiking somewhere new, or even if we hiked there before, we would never bushwhack to cut corners. No. You stick to the trail.
No, and in this area, if you look at the topographical maps to get to the places he wanted to, it's all trailed. Yeah. There's nothing to see to bushwhack. Now, I guess is what I'm getting at. So, it's different if there's a peak and maybe I want to try and climb this mountain. Yeah. There's only the things he wanted to see, and there's trails to them.
So, kind of finishing my thought on the search and rescue. So, the only reason why I brought up the size of the operation was just because maybe there's a chance that because it was a smaller operation in manpower, I mean, they still had multiple helicopters, it sounded like, that they were using. Maybe
one airplane, 3 helicopters.
Maybe they just weren't able to cover all the ground that, who knows, maybe he wandered off. I have no idea. Yeah. But maybe because of the size of the search and rescue operation that in some way affected the probability of finding him. I don't know. One other thing I'm going to bring up.
Do it. Throw it in there. You're the one that usually jogs my mind into thinking crazy other things. So, like, keep it coming.
I may be reading into Keely's comments too much, but something kind of jumped out at me. I'm probably reading way too much, into it.
Just go. Pitter patter.
I'm trying to find her comment, but she says somewhere in her comments that I don't know what he did in his past. Or no, right here. I know next to nothing about his past, but I feel so close to him.
Okay, so you're saying like she's known him for 10 years, but doesn't know anything about him prior to coming to Big Sur.
I've known you for over 10 years now.
Oh, shit.
I know, long time.
It's been a long time.
And I honestly know everything about your past before I knew you. And you probably the same with me. And the same with any of my other friends I've known for a long time.
Yeah, like the things that matter. Like where you went to high school, I met your parents,
names,
like all this thing.
Where are you from? All that kind of stuff.
I can't spend 10 years with somebody not talking about...
It comes up.
Yeah.
So this jumps out to me a little interesting that this person knew Arvin for 10 years, but still knew nothing about his past. Did Arvin just blow in the town one day and now he's living in Big Sur? Or
just showed up in his yellow VW van and...
I'm just bringing this up because we're trying to come up with every potential possibility. Maybe something in Arvin's past happened that caused him to... He just picked up and moved to Big Sur. Maybe he picked Big Sur because it's kind of out of the way. It's a little more remote.
You know what it's starting to sound like? Witsec.
Maybe.
Maybe he's witness protection.
But, so, maybe Arvin, this final time he went out hiking, he decided, it's time for me to move on. I'm a Rolling Stone. I'm moving on to the next town. I mean, you said he was a server.
Yep. So he's like the local hotel.
He was a server at the local hotel, so it's not like he had a job where he was, he wasn't like a manager of...
Yeah, you don't want to minimalize it, but it's not like if he disappears, a company's going to fold.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I have friends that manage restaurants, and one of their biggest problems is, the servers.
Oh, especially nowadays, people just ghost their job.
They just leave. They'll just not show up one day and ghost and give you no warning. I mean, maybe something happened in Arvin's life where he's just like, I'm going out on this hike, and then I'm
like the
moving on.
mafia boss he ratted out found him.
Yeah. So I, that kind of jumped out at me. It's strange to me that if you know somebody for a decade, you don't know anything about their past.
Yep.
That's, I don't know.
No, that I didn't think about that. I don't think you're reading too much into that, to be honest with you. I really don't. I think that is incredibly relevant because...
I don't know. Even if I was investigating this as a law enforcement officer, I would maybe ask her about, all right, do you know anything else?
Or dive
about
into his past
Arvin?
somehow. Like, where did he come from?
I mean,
what's he doing now?
Did any of the articles mention family?
No.
That's a little interesting.
Outside of
as well.
They don't know who called him who reported him missing. They said a friend or family.
Now, just because there's no...
And that's... Yeah,
it's not reported doesn't mean anything, but
yeah,
it's interesting that we've got this one lady who's known him for 10 years, knows nothing about his past, and then nowhere in any of our research mentioned anything about family members trying to find him or posting things on Facebook to find him or anything like that.
Yeah.
So to me, this is kind of starting to build a picture of maybe a type of, not a loner, but a guy who something happened to him in his past and he just upped and moved.
So he's like an outgoing individual. But he doesn't develop real relationships.
No. He keeps it fun. He keeps it like dancing and buying you a beer, but you never know about his past.
Yeah, I hate to sound like I'm speaking ill, but almost like a sociopath a little bit.
A little bit. I guess, kind of like
a really, not to say this is what it is, but like you look at like Ted Bundy, and that's just because the tapes came out, like, good-looking dude, he's completely normal, charismatic, normal guy,
yeah,
just messed up, gross, disgusting human being. Like, he could be your best friend for a long time, and you would never know.
Well, even though this show wasn't real, even to parallels to, Dexter.
Yeah.
A person who's capable of committing heinous crimes in the shadow of darkness, but during the day holds down a steady job and has friends and girlfriends, and people think he has kids.
And it's more like a pageantry thing, like I have to or they're going to think I'm weird.
But so, that's an interesting point. Pageantry, the guy who, everyone listening, this case is still so recent, the young girl.
I guess sociopath wouldn't be true because that's antisocial behavior.
The young girl that got kidnapped up in northern Wisconsin, and then she was held captive for like 3 months.
Yeah.
That guy was a remote cabin. He had her tied up under his bed or something, and he would have people over for parties.
Yeah, like
and
family and friends would come over.
No one
for
had
Christmas
any idea.
Parties.
Yeah. So everyone knows there's people capable of living double lives. Or I'm just saying.
No, I think that's extremely relevant because we don't know anything about his past.
Yeah.
And he's an overly charismatic guy. That's not a fault because I wish more people were like that. And
I'm not saying he's like a serial killer or something.
Yeah, but it lends into the thing of that's why I immediately thought of Witsec.
Yeah, I'm thinking something happened in his past that he doesn't talk about and no one knows about. He just showed up in Big Sur one day. He'd been living there for 10 years.
Yep. Great citizen.
Great citizen. Everyone loves him. Great person all around. And then one day something happened. He went out hiking, met these people, and then just disappeared. Did he disappear on his own? He's like, I got to move on. Why would he do that? Who knows? It's just another theory.
Yeah.
I think for me right now, so we don't ramble on for 3 hours on this.
Yeah.
I think, and you can go through your top theories.
Yeah.
For me, I think my top theories are, one, he decided to go to the coastline to get maybe some pictures or hike along there, and something happened where he fell off one of the cliffs into the surf. That would almost certainly kill you.
Yeah, that would do it.
And then the ocean, just washed him away. His body washed away.
So you don't think he would come back up? Because I always feel like stuff always comes back.
Yeah, but what if he went out with the tide and then there's currents? Pacific Ocean. It's just a theory. I don't know.
Well, why don't you know more?
My second theory, which is way out there, it's probably, just a notch ahead of aliens or Bigfoot, was that Jack and his son, I don't know, maybe had some involvement in his disappearance.
Okay.
And I want to say again, I have no evidence of this. I do not know either of them. I'm just throwing this out there as a possibility. And Joe said they did mention that him and his son were picked up by a helicopter. So more than likely, there probably is a corroborating statement from the helicopter pilot.
Well, and think about that too.
So
They got to have money. I mean, it's not expensive to get a ride from a helicopter, but like you don't just do that.
No,
unless you can like just burn a few $100.
When we flew off the Mount Assiniboine in Canada, it was like, I don't know, $160 one way per person. So that was with our gear.
Yeah, and that's like you do it one time because you're like, this will be cool, helicopter. Like they're like, hey, we're gonna go spend some time in the cabin. Let's take the helicopter out of here. Like
so.
Maybe maybe the violin business is actually really good.
I mean, yeah. So, and then my final theory, I think, is the one we were just talking about, where he, something happened in his past. He just rolled in the Big Sur one day. He lived there for a decade. Something again happened that he needed to move on. And maybe he's like, I'm going out for one more hike.
Yeah.
And maybe this is a good way to, go missing. Let people think I'm, just disappeared. He just moved on. He's somewhere else. He's still alive to this day. And I only say that because of the interesting comments that Keely made, that she didn't know anything about his past, even though she knew him for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And no mention of really family at all in any of the research. Now, I'll preface both of those comments in saying that, we haven't spoken to anybody, Keely, or any family. There could be family involved in the search and rescue. If that's the case, obviously this theory is a lot less likely. Yeah. I really would like to know the history of Arvin. I did he serve in the military? Yeah. Where is he from? Where does his family live? I think that would help piece together more of, a profile about him. So
yeah, to see why he's the type of guy that rolls into a town. Yeah. And just integrates.
Yeah. So, those are my top 3 theories of what happened to him. I don't know, Joe, what do you think? I just blathered on for 30 minutes.
That's important because you always like stir something up, because I always try and just find like the answer right away when we really can't ever find these, but I'm always like, what's the actual answer of what happened? I'm starting to think more about we don't know about his past. So I don't look at that as Keely's issue.
That's not her fault.
Yeah, that's more of people. But her statement is a window into reality.
Yeah, people choose what to tell other people about themselves.
So that's but the fact that she doesn't is a red flag. Is a great guy, but okay, we don't like I would say if you know somebody well for 10 years, that is enough that they're making a statement. That's a red flag, because they should know something.
If any one of my good friends went missing and I had to provide a statement about them, I would know everything about from
even a little bit.
Where they went to grade school up until, when I met them. Just because all that kind of stuff throughout the normal friendship between two people kind of comes up. You talk about your parents, you talk about your hometown, you talk about this and that. So, and maybe we're reading too much into how good of friends she was with him.
That's also could be the case. Like she's like an attention seeker. But okay, now here's I was immediately thinking that like maybe this is an issue of it's just like the lady that they put on the news that wants to just talk, but she's an executive assistant at the place that reports the stories.
Yeah.
So
I think she's a pretty credible source.
I think she's got to be credible.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't sound like she's bolstering her relationship with him, because she's got a lot of anecdotal stories about what was going on.
Yeah, I can't think of a reason why she would
lie about any of that stuff.
So
let's assume that that's all true then. So she doesn't know much about him, which not a huge red flag, but weird. And I didn't think about it until you brought it up. That's how small it is, I think. But since you said it, now I can't stop thinking about it. But then he runs into those guys in that house. Yeah. From reading the story and seeing Jack, he seems like a perfectly normal dude who's kind of found a niche doing some woodwork, handy stuff. Yeah. Don't know anything about his son. So there's that. I can't say it's good, bad, or indifferent. Yep. But yeah, they get he hangs out with him for several days, and they get a helicopter out, and that's the last they see him. Yeah. So I think there's two things there. Like, my mind wants the Hollywood movie of he's in witness protection. Yeah. And that's why they don't know anything about him. And he's trying to integrate. He's like some snitch in the mob. Yeah, like something really cool. Yeah. And somebody found him and was like tracking him and waiting for the right time, and saw him go in the wooded area, and then they took him out.
He's like a Jack Reacher type.
Yeah.
Like special forces, ex-special forces. He's been disavowed by his government, and now he's on the run hiding from them.
Yeah, like something like cool like that. I really want to have. I want that.
He's
to be
a big dude, 6'3", 200 pounds. I mean, in looking at his picture, I could see him being like ex-special forces or.
Yeah,
he's got that look.
And he's just old now. Like he's not old, but like he's retired.
He's like, what's that actor
but you never
that was
forget that stuff.
Those movies Taken. What's his name?
Oh yeah. Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson. He's like a Liam Neeson type.
Yeah. So there's that. There's then there is the whole. I really don't, and I think I don't say I jump to conclusions, but I'll accept a lot of theories.
Yeah.
Typically. I'm not accepting that it's Jack and his son at all.
Okay.
Outside, my gut is telling me completely normal, fun, cool encounter. They parted ways.
Yeah,
I think that was real.
Mean,
I would still almost lean more towards someone went to go rob Jack's cabin, and he was planning to stay there for a couple more days.
So you've got a variation on the cabin theory.
Yeah, the cabin theory to me is everything was all on par for them and their son. They really liked him, and then he's such a nice guy that he's saying, I'm going to let him use my cabin for 2 days while I'm gone. I'm almost wondering if something happened in that 2 days.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, more and more I think about it, like Jack and his son are well known in the community.
Yeah.
They're successful in making these violin covers.
I mean, we have to
are.
assume that everyone's bad and sometimes good people are just actually just good people.
Yeah.
So I want to assume that Alvin's a good person, Jack and his son are also good people.
I merely introduced the theory just because we're trying to air everything I'm thinking of.
I think it's important to air it all out, but I'm just saying what my gut is saying. I think everything's on par, and there's a third party that got involved somewhere.
Third party got involved. Maybe
I think so.
Going up to the house.
I don't think injury is an issue just because.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You don't bushwhack in that area.
No.
Based on what I've seen, unless there's some hidden gem I don't know about that he might be like, all right, you got to go through this hidden spot. You can get this area. But then if that's the case, it seems like a well-known place that they might search.
Yeah.
If locals are involved in the search. So I don't think injury. I definitely don't think animals. He's too big for the types of animals that are there. Yeah, I say witness protection discovered, or wrong place, wrong time in a supposed to be abandoned cabin that might contain very valuable violin parts.
Yeah.
And because it was reported that he's making these things that are selling for $2-3 a piece.
Yep.
And everyone knows he's the guy that lives in the remote cabin in the mountainous area.
Yeah. And they knew he was probably back in town.
And you notice that he took his helicopter away from his cabin. So what if the violin bow business is getting so good, this guy's carting around in a helicopter now, or his son, maybe he's the old guy, but his son's spending money like crazy.
Yeah.
And now he's made himself a target.
No, I mean, that's an interesting theory, and you just wonder.
Yeah, I'm going to back away from Witsec just because that's more Hollywood.
You wonder, and not to drag this on, we probably got to wrap the show up here pretty soon. But yeah, no, I think I'm slowly coming around to adding maybe your theory about the cabin and getting rid of mine.
All right, you're going to jump on my train this week?
I'm going to jump on your train. I don't want to slander good people in a community. I'm sure Jack sounds like the kind of guy that a small, close-knit community, if you talk bad about him, the whole community will come after you.
Yeah.
So I retract my theory on Jack and his son.
No, I think it's worth
exploring.
It's worth fishing out, making sure everything's on the up and up.
Boy, when we started this show, I wasn't expecting it to go off in this tangent.
That's why I always say I don't like talking to you entirely beforehand, so we can have these things just happen.
All right, well, we're gonna wrap up the show because this one's going.
I think
long.
I think I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna say my theory that I'm going with, saying this is my opinion. Foul play by another unknown party,
third party
at the cabin.
Yep.
In an unrelated attempt to do something else. So he was wrong place, wrong time.
Kind of like Paul Fugate, one of our theories.
Yeah, our theory on him, wrong place, wrong time, drug deal.
Time.
Wrong place, wrong time, burgle.